All right, call to order the Lake County 911 Program Review Committee. This is the annual meeting. Today is Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026, 2:15 p.m. I will do a roll call for our committee members. Commissioner McIntosh present. Sheriff Leon Bruno.
Here.
Mr. Carr.
Here.
Mr. Filipiak. Mr. Hillier.
Present.
And Mr. White.
Here.
Okay, thank you. I just want to welcome everybody here. This is our annual organization meeting. I apologize that we are doing this a little later than normal. This will be the only role in county government that I have an easy transition to. But I do want to take a minute to just think about our former commissioner, Rich Regovich. I think about Rich often as I'm around here doing the work in the county, and I certainly miss his presence having served on this committee with him. And at the same time, I would like to welcome Trustee Joe White, who joins us from the township to fill the spot that I vacated when I was appointed to the commissioner's office. And I will point out that we are having it's just been a year. We last met on May 28th, 2025, and I believe that's when we adopted the entire Next Gen plan. So again, this is just the annual meeting to meet our statutory obligation. And at this point, we've got a couple things on the agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and get with it and let Captain Backnicky, our 911 coordinator, give his 911 updates and provide the revenue expenditure report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I mean, statutorily, that's our requirement. It's supposed to be in March every year to do this. We run into some trouble because I'm still gathering revenue and expenditure numbers in March from all the PSAPs. So that is a little bit of the delay. So we'll probably aim for April, May every year to get this going. Part of that requirement is that I report the revenue and expenditures that I collect from all the PSAPs through the county, and this is all submitted to the state. So I've got the summary sheet here. We'll pull it up on. So this is the overall summary sheet. It actually just grabs each PSAP and breaks them down to what they paid. It has a listing for the government expenditure funds that were used. I mean, obviously now all those funds go to the county sheriff's office for the wireless services that we get, the money that we collect. So I don't know if you guys want to go line by line or looking at the expenditures. I mean, overall, as a county itself, I mean, we spent $9.8 million, of which is reported on dispatch services for 2025. Obviously, you can tell a little bit of the difference on there based on the PSAPs, the size of the PSAPs, and what they're spending on their dispatch services. So pretty consistent across the board. This is very similar to what it was in 24 as well. So obviously the sheriff's office spent at $3.4 million. You know, and the Mentor Willoughby's 1.7 apiece, which are pretty consistent with the numbers. So I have individual breakdowns. Again, those breakdowns for each of these PSAPs goes into what they're spending the money on. I don't really think the committee needs to go in and see what everybody's spending every dollar on. So I figure the summary sheet is probably best. But again, this includes all of the personnel, everything it costs to run the dispatch center. Technically, everything from water service, electricity, and everything that goes to keep a PSAP up and running should be included in this whole thing. So that's kind of the state of where we are.
Captain Backnicky, I'd like to add to the committee members, if you do have any questions, I assume they could request detailed information.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we spent, if you're saying last year's, this is fairly in line with last year. I know we spent a lot of time looking at that in great detail last year, so I would encourage members, if you've got any questions, to reach out, and certainly that's obviously a fair public record, and you can take a look at it as you need.
And I think the consistency is because, you know, we're all working towards purchasing and getting call handling equipment and software for Next Gen. I don't anticipate that there was much spent within calendar year 25 for that endeavor. Next year, it'll probably be different because people will be getting hardware, software, hosted premise, whatever they're gonna get to connect to the EZNet for the next gen. So I assume this will change considerably next year, depending on what people are spending their money on. But yes, all available. I have it all if anybody wants complete breakdowns of this whole thing.
With that, your, okay,
Yeah, I'll go on to the next one here. Just want to go over some changes that have come mostly from the state, a few topics that I want to cover with whatever PSAP managers are here, and honestly for the committee's knowledge. Basically, without reading this whole thing, this is a cut and pasted version of an email that I got from DAS, the 911 committee of the state. Basically outlining 5507-1 some changes that are coming that went into effect on May 25th for changes of the law for PSAPs, all the PSAPs. Main ones being is that we went up to 12 hours of training for all telecommunicator dispatchers in a year's time. The state provides 1 hour, which usually comes to me and I'll disseminate to the other PSAPs. I don't know if that'll change with next gen, if everybody is their own standalone and they'll get everything from the state, or if that'll still trickle through the coordinator or not. So that leaves 11 hours that are required to be done in-house for every dispatcher, which is up from, we had to do 7 last year, state provided 1 last year, and then we had to account for 7, so we're now up to 12 hours of training in a year's time. Pretty particular, I mean, it's got to be job related. They made a note in here that somebody had submitted something for a notary training, which obviously isn't in line with 911 dispatch services, so it all has to be job related training, and the state scrutinizes that pretty well, so just make sure we're all training and on the same public safety standard here. The next one, which is more so going to affect probably records retention and analytics for all of these PSAPs, is they're requiring a QI and a QA, quality assurance and a quality improvement for emergency medical dispatch calls. So every PSAP's going to have to actually track, and they probably do and should do now, how many emergency medical dispatch calls that they get. And a certain number of those calls, 2% is what they're putting on here, is they have to be reviewed, analyzed to make sure there's no mistakes made by the center. So all of that stuff will have to be reported to the state, and it has on there obviously the total number of EMS incidents based on the total number of calls reviewed, and what information was given in regards to EMD. EMD is obviously a mandated training that every dispatcher has to have. They're just basically upping the requirements of proving that we are not only doing it, but monitoring ourselves, self-checking, and making sure that all those instructions are given properly. So again, this is all will be part of the audits that the state does. I sent out to all the PSAP managers today the audit. It'll be the first time for all of them. Obviously, us being the primary for years, we've gone through these audits before. All of the PSAPs will have an audit this year through the state. It's pretty extensive. It's schedules, records, making sure that staffing was all there. So I did send that email out to everybody today so that they can start working on that. That's due, I think, near the end of July. Excuse me. So that's basically the updates, and again, that's all in 5507. The ORC online is all updated, and everything is up to date on that. A few things, and I took a question from Chief Hager on it, and there's been some other questions. There's an FCC form, a survey form that's required by the state of Ohio to be completed on behalf of the FCC. That has to be completed. That was actually due in May. The Sheriff's Office is the only one that has it submitted to the state. I talked to Patrick Brandt this morning down with the state, so we've got to get those done. I think most of the questions guys had on it was the GIS information. Caroline is here, and if there's a few boxes that we need information on to get filled out, let's get with her, but I'm getting pressure from the state to get those in because they're overdue. And again, these are first-time things that these PSAPs are having to face, so I'm not pointing any fingers, but it's something we all have to get used to as PSAPs. A little bit on the timeline from talking to the states. This is always the hot question of when is NextGen coming to Lake County. All estimates that I get, all thoughts that I get with some asterisks, is that it'll be probably mid-27 where they'll start phasing things in, hopefully fully implemented within the calendar year of 27. A lot of that depends on the readiness of the PSAPs and getting their call handling, which is a point that I'll get to here in a second. All of that depends if everybody's ready to connect, because the main goal of this whole thing is that we do this as a county. We want to implement NextGen 911 as a county, not PSAP by PSAP. There can't be and there shouldn't be a race to be the first to get hooked to this whole thing. This is a county initiative. There's transfers of calls. There's continuity of different call handling systems that need to be worked out. There's meetings with Comtech, which is now Solacom, who runs the EZNet. This all has to flow together. We all have to do this together as a county. So I can't stress that enough. So we all just got to stay on page and stay communicative and get this all done together. In regards to that call handling, what I'm asking from the PSAP managers is email me, please, what call handling you're going with for NextGen, what version it is, what company you're going with. There's several Vestas. Some people are using Vesta. I think Willoughby Menor, the sheriff's office will be Vesta. But if you're not with Vesta, let me know what company you're with, what version you're running. Again, we have to make sure that all these talk together. There shouldn't be an issue. They're all connecting to the EZNet. They're all have the ability to work NextGen. We just got to make sure that any transfers or overflows that we get work from call handling system to call handling system. So I will send out an email to that requesting that. I just certainly wanted to bring that up here for the committee that that is a big hurdle that we have to face and make sure that we have it lined before mid-27. I guess my last point with call flow, we had talked a bit on the final plan when we drafted that about, and I think we even put a date on there, I'd have to pull it up, about people picking their backups, who their backups are going to be, where the calls are going to get transferred to if the lines are busy. We need all that. We need all that information, but I learned from the state that once we raise our hand and the state comes here and starts hooking us up to this NextGen EZNet, Solacom comes out and they actually get a call flow meeting with all the PSAP managers to figure out where the calls will go and where they'll backflow. We want a basic idea of what we have and where these calls are going to go, who's going to back up who on the busy calls. But we will have a big meeting to figure out and get that flow chart going. So it's good to see that the state and Solacom is on that and making sure that every county has their transfers in place. I think that's all the updates that I have. Questions, gentlemen?
Any questions for Captain Backpicking? Questions?
I think some of that information we'd want to see earlier than at the last minute for Solacom.
Yes, absolutely
I think
agree.
we need to see the transfer flow charts, and so we have some idea of where we're going as a county.
Yeah, and, you know, when I send out the email, we'll get a date that we actually want all of this stuff in. And you're right, I don't want to be sitting there with Solacom and trying to figure out and bickering as to who's going to back up who. So we'll have that laid out. But again, if there's any questions regarding the call handling, everything can get answered then. But yeah, we'll be ready for that.
Anything else? All right, thank you. And then next agenda item is Caroline Peterson from GIS to go through her presentation on GIS.
Hello, everybody.
I'm unplugged, so you can go.
Captain Batnicky,
Yes?
while she's setting up, is there a possible plan, hi sir, is there a plan in place where we can start getting some raw data on how many cell phone calls Lake County actually do receive that they have to transfer?
Yeah, I have all the year-end analytics, I can get that out to you.
Okay, that would be great, so that we can start looking
I'll
at
have to
manpower.
check admittedly, our analytics to break down where they're going isn't the best. You guys say
Understand,
best as
yes,
we do.
we use the same
So
one.
I'll get with Reisner to see if we can break that down by community to see who's getting what, just to give you guys an idea of what you're probably expecting.
Well, we're looking at it as far as increasing calls.
Sure,
Great,
absolutely.
thank you, Captain.
All right, can everyone hear me from over here? Hello, everybody. My name is Caroline Peterson. I have my colleague over here, Ryan Barshik, and we work for the GIS department. Our job is to make sure all of the data that we send up to the state, the data that you will use in your CAD systems, the data that will be used in situational awareness, addresses, roads, everything, is as accurate as possible. And I have a couple slides here that I want to show you guys. So first thing, NG 911 readiness, as Captain Becky mentioned, we did score 100% on our phase 1. The phase 1 is ensuring that our data is compatible and standardized with the core service data from the state. So ensuring that all of the PSAPs, all of the fire polygons or the shapes of boundaries, police boundaries, none of them have gaps. Make sure that they all have the same fields, those unique identifiers for each PSAP, for each ESB, fire, police. Our last submission was on 6/3, or I guess yesterday. Or was today the 3rd? Yesterday. Excuse me. After the phase 1 part, we are going to move to phase 2. That's when we validate and sync our GIS data to the MSAG, make sure that the comparison is validated, it can reconcile, and make improvements from there. Thank you. So state required NG 911 GIS data. This includes address points, your road center lines, jurisdictions, the PSAP boundaries, DSBs, the fire law and EMS in Lake County, EMS and fire combined, and the provisioning boundary. Our key stakeholders are our address authorities. So who here knows who their address authority here is? Your address authority can be the building department in your community.
You told us today it was our building department. So, yes, we
There you go. It could be your planning commission. It can be your engineer department. It can be any of those, or it can be the county if you're a township, or if you're a village that's part of the county planning department addressing. So identifying who those address authorities are in your PSAP is very, very important, because they're going to be the ones that are giving you the updates that you're going to need to update your system and our system as well. So the GIS process. So if anyone's reviewed the FFA survey, I'm sure they've had some questions about GIS. Well, we have some handouts over here if you need to reference it later on. but a community, and we have good relationships with some of the communities where they will send us updates right away. Sometimes we get it through the auditor's office, sometimes we get it from the planning office. And a lot of the time we actually get it from dispatch. They share that with us, and they should share it with you as well. And I'm going to give you a couple reasons why they should share it with you before sending to us or anyone else. Your jobs as PSAP coordinators, when it comes to GIS and the data in your system, is to ensure that the addresses, the roads, and the boundary updates have been sent to us. And if we have a problem identifying an address or see a dwelling that has multiple units or a new subdivision that just popped up, we want to go to you or the address authority if maybe they haven't gotten back to us. That's when you can step in and go to them and be like, we need this data. This is part of NG 911 and it's extremely important. This is what the state needs. So what do? We take that data and we standardize it according to the NENA/LBRS standards for the state 911 department. We are part of the GIS core services for the county. We're going to work with you. We work with the 911 coordinator here, and we update that as often as possible. The state then will send us error reports if they cannot validate something. And once we do send it to the state, that's how calls are going to get routed correctly. You know, if it's the wrong address, there might be the wrong responder. So that's something. It's really important to us that that data does get to us. So if you're receiving updates from another department within your community, that is something that we should get. I think this one died too. Very good. So I'm going to give you some examples of why this matters. I'm not picking on Willoughby, but these are going to be my examples. And I'm going to make this kind of like a game, okay? So if anybody, I hope everyone can see the screen. So right here, this parcel, so this parcel right here, this building, you guys can see it, that big building right at the end. It's right by Euclid Ave.
Where are you pointing to on the screen?
This is a laser pointer. This building over here.
Okay.
So who here, you guys see the roads? What roads are those?
That's Euclid right here.
That's Euclid Ave, and that's River Street. That's Spalding, and that's Public Square. So based on all of this information in front of you, what do you think this address should be? And you don't give me a number. What road should this address go to?
Euclid Avenue.
Euclid Avenue, yes. So, unfortunately, there was an old address already existing there from back when it was 25 Public Square. So again, you can see in the image over here, sorry. So you can see right here, Public Square is way up there. But the entrance right here is Euclid Ave. So that's when you as PSAP coordinators, as fire departments, as police chiefs, can make that change and make sure it changes. That's when you have a chance to review these addresses as well and be like, well, how are people going to access this? I mean, obviously your law enforcement officers, your fire departments, they're going to know because they know their city better than anyone else. But having that situational awareness, the actual address, you don't want anything, you don't want your dispatcher or your police officer or fire department searching around over there. And again, this would never happen because, they know what they're doing. Well, let's say there's a giant terrorist attack that happened in Lakeline, and every single unit has to go there, and there's only one unit that can handle right here, and that's, and that's North Madison, which I don't even think they have a fire, but I think they do. Either way, I don't think there's North Perry, sorry, North Perry. They're going to go to 25 Public Square and they're not going to see a sign for it anywhere. They're going to drive down that road. So that's why this address data is extremely important. That's why your eyes need to be on it. You need to find the best access point to that building, because that's up there. And I have one more example. It's going to be Willoughby again. I'm sorry again. So this is in the same area. The library is located right here. Based on this image, the library, what should the address be? Euclid Ave. That's a good guess because there is an entrance there. That is a good guess, actually. The parking lot is over here. Usually when we do assign an address point, it goes on the building, but sometimes it can be an access point as well, like the driveway. So in this situation, it can be on Euclid Ave or it can be on Spalding. You know, we have options here. But actually, the address is West Spalding, which, and let me just leave here for a second. Go to our handy dandy Lake Nav, which the beta did just release recently. It's still got some glitches though. Wrong city. I'll just So, the address here is West Spalding Street. That is what we have. So West Spalding Street is actually over here. And then you can see there's a Spalding Street at a residential home over here as well. So the beauty of NG 911 is that it's going to empower you as law enforcement and public safety to make those changes with your building and planning department and plan for these types of situations. You can send a letter to the homeowner, you know, like, hey, your address is out of sequence, you know, you can go about it that way, and maybe the owner will want to change it, you know, after you get that approval from that owner. But this is you guys are a part of the addressing process now, or should be.
Question for you.
Yes.
So if you come across one that's obviously wrong, do they change their building mailing address for the United States Postal Service too? Is that all part of the process, or is that just totally different? Because I've seen things in our township when you're bringing this up where, you know, one side of the street is even, the other side is odd. But we have some old areas, and God knows what they were doing back when they assigned numbers, and
Yeah.
they're on the
Yeah.
same side of the street and all sorts of weird things out of sequence. I mean, it's a mess. In certain places, it's a mess. Not a lot, but there are some.
Yeah, so that's kind of the difficulty to this entire process, is getting the owners to also comply with changing their address even though it's wrong. The post office is always going to know what the address is, even if it's old or wrong. They have those addresses already in place, and we send updates to them every now and again, and we even check their data to compare it to ours sometimes to validate it. And you're right, there are old roads, there are addresses that are out of sequence. But I went to a seminar recently with Datamark, and they gave me a lot of tools and just knowledge all about NG 911 and the kind of rules you can establish. So if that address has a lot of emergencies at it and they're always sending ambulances there, you can work with your zoning or planning office or whomever and try to make it a rule for them to change it. Like an ordinance, like if your address is out of sequence or if it's on an old road. I did put some flyers for the Datamark training if anybody would like to go to it or share with their addressing team. It's very educational, but
So following up on that then, as long as the next gen matches this right here, we're considered good, even though it's wrong. Or even though it's illogical, put it that way, because it doesn't make sense why it is as it is.
that we don't know yet. What it's gonna mess with is like the situational awareness of everything, because they're gonna see an address that's going to that location, but it's not. That's why we have the road center lines and the address range in the MSAG. There's an address range per street. So if it can't identify it using the data that it has, it'll use some sort of, you know, generated address there, hopefully. And the beauty of NG911 too is it's going to give you the latitude and longitude. And if you have a CAD system that has a note on that parcel or that address, like we do here, we use buffers around the addresses with the new CAD system in Central. If there's an alternate address there or some sort of thing or some sort of addresser in that address, it'll actually tell you, hey, this is actually located over on this street.
So in the first example you gave of the building where it was on public square, but it's not on public square, nor is it on the two bordering roads, what are they supposed to do? What are you expecting Willoughby to do in that situation?
I feel like the fire and the police department already know where 25 Public Square is.
But you gave the example of an instance, terrorist
Yeah,
activity
yeah.
in Lakeline, so what are they supposed to do?
What are they supposed to do?
Fix it or leave it alone?
I think they should probably fix it eventually, maybe add another address. That would be my suggestion, but that's not my call. I'm just the data person, so, I mean,
So
you
the-
could change it, but
The
you'd have
call,
to.
the decision to do that resides in the home community.
Exactly. Thank you.
And I think just to, I don't know, to let you kind of finish answering Chuck's question, but to complicate it or add more. So when you identify these inconsistencies, you gave us two examples here. How are we to know? I realize that the public safety forces in various communities are going to realize that certain addresses come up in wonky ways, and you're right. They all know, that's not correct and everything, but how are each of the communities to identify with these? How do these inconsistencies get discovered without a painstaking audit? Like, how do we do this?
We've come across them just adding other addresses and adding new roads, or we just come across these naturally when we're mapping the data. And I'm sure there's some special cases over at dispatch where you guys have to actually change kind of like the address name or the common place name to help identify that location, right?
Yeah, we've had people actually drive down the road and just start checking addresses too.
They would be better to answer.
Okay.
Sometimes that's the simplest way, is the easiest way to go, hey, this is off. But it's
So
GIS holds this data, but they have no authority to force anybody to make it.
It's going to come.
Exactly.
It's going to come.
We do
down,
tell them that there's an error here.
It's going to come down to the communities knowing or recognizing that, hey, something comes up as a little quirky, or I'm sure our police and fire departments already know some of these instances in the community. So if they know of them, they can get with their building department or their engineer, however that works, and this is an opportunity to straighten out known
Yeah,
errors.
exactly.
But as far as discovering other ones, it's going to be continuing to stumble across them or to do physical audits and cross-checking reality in some way, which I would imagine in some of our bigger communities is not an insignificant task.
And there's some tools. We use Cyclomedia a lot at the time to actually see what the signs are. We're hopefully going to be doing another drive soon. We can even pay Cyclomedia to actually take those signs and address them for us so we can see where those inconsistencies are with the road signs and the addresses. But I've heard that there are some villages that put ordinances. If your address is an old address, if it's out of sequence or if it's wrong, you can force that person to change it. Like you can actually put an ordinance and send them a letter. You must change your address and free of charge assign them a new address and go through that process. Again, I really recommend you guys going to that data mark training or sending your planners there because it'll give you those tools and those, the ordinances, all other training. And I actually recommend the PSAP coordinators to go there too.
And can I ask a follow-up question to a statement
Yeah.
you made a little bit ago?
Me too when you're done, sir.
You had mentioned that next to 911, when you've got the phone's it's going to triangulate the latitude and the longitude. Did you say that it's going to cross-reference with an address database as well? Is that what you were saying?
Yes. It's going to cross-reference our roads, our addresses. It's going to show the latitude and longitude. It's going to show the location of where it's at. But when the actual information comes up, it's going to be...
It's going to attach that location as best it can to an actual address. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know, actually. I guess if it's the latitude and longitude, it's intersecting nearby a different address, it'll probably just ping to that, but it'll still show that information for the existing address that's wrong.
It'll probably just list the closest one.
I was
It'll list the closest one.
Within a
You-
certain
you-
radius.
It's drawn by polygons, so the closest address within that, so if the phone comes up on the back end of a property, it's within a polygon of that address, it's going to go back to that center line to give you the closest reference point to an address. But where they're actually standing is what you're going to see on your next gen 911 map and on your, hopefully your CAD map too, so you all get integrated. So you'll see their location. The next gen 911 is location based, not address based, but you still have to reference some sort of location. What you're gonna have, your special situations, anything along those lines that you have.
So, okay, I was gonna try to paraphrase that since you're not on the microphone
Yeah, actually.
to get the answer. Carolyn, can you sort of summarize that again? Just so we have it on the record,
You can
please.
explain it better than anyone.
Yeah, so what you have with the next gen, it's location based, so the location of that phone is what's going to be showing up on the screen. But the addresses are drawn within polygons to your centerline roads. So that phone shows up in a polygon, maybe the back end of the large property, it's going to give you that address. That gives you, because that's going to be how your emergency responders are going to be coming through to that address, right? They're not going to be driving through the woods and they're going as a crow flies. They're going to be taking that road to that address. And that's going to be your obviously your fastest route. But it's a location-based system in NextGen. So the location, not the address, is what shows up. You're not calling, giving an address. It's, I see where your phone is. The CAD map, the NextGen map of the phone system that's coming in, is going to show where that caller is as opposed to what address is. But
So
for
if they're
special
on the back of a
situations-
large property, as you said, the first responders are gonna see that, and in some case, they may recognize that responding the next street over is the better access and so forth.
Correct, and that's part of your, that's why you put that information onto that address. So, okay, access is actually on the other side of the street, because that's the easiest way to get whatever vehicle in there for whatever the response is. With that, we attach to an address. So there's no such thing, so that's why it always cross-references your address, so that it can actually provide you all that information that we put in there as police and fire go in and say, okay, when you're coming into this building, there's a certain amount of whatever hazardous materials here, so the fire knows how to respond, or where the stage, et cetera.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Kevin, back to you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Kevin nailed most of what I was going to say. And Caroline may hate me for saying this, but in my mind, and in the way I guess I look at it with existing addresses, that they are what they are. My big concern as a coordinator would be when we're adding new addresses, new developments, new things, we got to make sure that our building departments and our addressing authorities are on the ball to get us that information so that we can upload that information to the state in a timely manner when there's a new road, new addresses. I don't know. I mean, you can go throughout the county and probably find thousands of weird addresses and stuff, and should we fix them? Probably, but if we're location based, I'm comfortable enough knowing that we're going to get to where we need to go, whether the address is wonky or not. But she's reported countless times to me that new streets are going in. We had some issues in Menor on the Lake with new streets and where they accessed. They built these things, they didn't communicate to GIS that these new streets were there. So we need that. And this part of it, not to inflate Caroline's head, but GIS is a very, very important part of NextGen. We actually needed to get to 100% before the state would have even considered us going online with the EZNet. So we need this data good. It's good now, but as these new developments go in, we need the PSAP managers to be on the ball, to get us the addresses, to keep this thing flowing and keep us at 100.
Thank you. And no, you're right. I mean, I think it would still be good to change those addresses still. Maybe if a new owner goes in, you can recommend that they change it when they go to the building department or the planning department. But he's absolutely right. It's going to be location based, so it's going to reference whatever's nearby. And Dan, Kevin, Ann over here, they're going to be the best ones to answer that question because they're using the call handling equipment. We just send the data up and we find these errors. So anyway, so your PSAP, your reporting changes, what to report, if you have any sort of emergency service boundary update, any sort of addresses or road update, if you've received any from your addressing authority or you have seen them in your system but you haven't seen them on our site, send them over our way. If you see an address that you don't have assigned, send that our way as well. This is going to be important for us updating the addresses, the roads, boundaries, and the MSAG as well. If you need any sort of resources, you can request data for your CAD software. So if you need that automatic data coming straight from our database, which is going to be the same data that the state has, we can share that with you. Large format print maps, if you want a complete map of your entire city with all the addresses on it, let us know. We can do that too. If you want to review your PSAPs and your ESB boundaries, we can do that as well. And if you don't have access already to Cyclomedia or EagleView, let us know, because we can give you access to that. Oops. We're here to help at the end of the day, and GIS is a huge part of this process, and the more accurate we're going to be, the better it's going to turn out. So let us know if you need anything. I left some materials over here. We got the data mark training, the guide to, if you're getting any of those questions from the FAA survey, take one of the copies of the GIS resources for PSAPs, and there's some maps of the ESBs and the PSAPs over there too. So definitely take your copy. Do you guys have any questions? Questions from the committee?
Any more questions?
I just have a comment. I think we have to be real careful with this incorrect address issue, because 25 Public Square, even though it may not make sense on a map, it's been known like that for forever. The people moving in there, that's their address. You got the post office. I pull up my Google Maps out of curiosity, and 25 Public Square takes me right to that building. So I think trying to fix something that may not make sense could cause a lot more problems and issues. So I think we just have to be careful.
Okay. Okay. Just a couple more resources if you guys would like to see them. We have our NG 911 zone search, where you can search an address and it'll tell you exactly the zone that it's going to come up in. And we have our next generation page with all the information about PSAPs. You can print out maps from here. It gives you the plan, every point of information that you're going to need when it comes to GIS and LBRS and addressing authorities. Now it will also be on our address hub, where we have a total count of our address points. It's a huge data set, so it sometimes doesn't always load. But there we go. So we have 117,000 address points, addressing stakeholders. That's going to be all of you, the committee, and your addressing authorities. And yeah. And if you have any new addresses, any sort of data change or anything, please send that our way.
All right, thank you. Any final questions for Carolyn? Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda, so I just want to recap. We just got a big pitch on the address corrections, but just to circle back to Captain Backnicky's part, we'll be having an annual meeting again. At this point, we don't have anything on the horizon other than an annual meeting. He's going to continue working with all the PSAP coordinators on getting that online. At this point, we're looking at probably a year plus before we're flipping that, and we'll be looking to have our standing annual meeting before that. We'll probably have it earlier in the spring. We'll be better prepared for that next year. And then other than something coming up, we won't need to meet before then.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the changes are probably coming fast, so I mean, if something comes across my desk or there is some change to a PSAP or the lines, then I'll certainly get with you guys and pitch for a meeting if we need it. So
Okay, so for now, we're just looking ahead to the next
yeah,
meeting.
this is just kind of the state of the union for now, and any more information I'll get with you guys.
This time next year will be a lot more going on, it looks like.
Yeah, a lot more, and I do anticipate probably a meeting prior to that once we get the information. And I mean, next year kind of puts us close to where we're scheduled supposedly to go online to this. So
Okay.
I'll keep you in the loop.
And I think just to wrap it, before we wrap it up, if there's any questions from anybody, Chief. And then actually, just a point of order, if you guys could come to the DS so we can make sure and get you on the record, I'd appreciate it.
Troy Hager, Madison Township. Question, as we're only going to be meeting this time this year, there was a disbursement of funds supposed to be happening through cellular that was collected. I think a number was pitched out there at the beginning that this could be around $600,000, and then with the communities maintaining their PSAPs, a portion of that would go to the communities. Now that we're at this time of the year and we're going to be budgeting for next year, has there been a resolution on how that will be dispersed to the PSAPs? I'm in a little bit different situation. I know the other communities will be getting I would assume, some sort of disbursement for their fair share, but is it based on population, based on calls? What does the committee plan on doing with that disbursement and how they're going to do it? Planning for the budget for 2027 for our community, I'm looking at am I going to get any of that? And because the plan is, I'm not going to have a PSAP, but my portion was going to be given to the sheriff's department to answer our PSAP calls like they have been, and that would be the way we were going to move forward. The other communities that are maintaining their PSAPs, I'm guessing they're probably going to be looking to see what their portion of it was, and I'm curious as how the disbursement's going to happen, population, calls for service, and that's it. So that's my question, for budgetary reasons.
Solid question. I mean, I think it's something we're going to have to certainly address. I mean, none of that will start taking effect until, I guess, figuratively, the switch is turned on and people actually go to Next Gen, geo-fenced in, and start answering their calls from the registered devices that are in that area. So once we get to that point, again, if it's mid to late 27, I don't know if it'll help your budget for next year, probably 28. We would have some consideration for it. But once we get all the PSAPs established, everybody's geo-fenced, answering their own devices that are within their area, I mean, that's when the disbursement would, in my thought, would
So at this
start.
point, based on a question asked earlier about 911 calls and so forth, we could start to look at preliminary ideas, and if we're going to look at calls by jurisdiction and geofence in the future, we'd have maybe an approximate idea. But as we're not looking to flip the switch on Next Gen 911 until probably later next year, we would plan on a majority of next year not having that allocation, to answer Chief Hager's question.
Yeah, I mean, the allocation still comes from the state. Up until that point where we switch, the sheriff's office will still be answering every 911 cellular VoIP call that comes in. So it'll be business as usual until the point when these calls are in their entirety transferred to these.
And I think to fill in a little bit, Chief, referencing what the captain said earlier, is that we're not looking to, we don't have a meeting scheduled before the annual, but more than likely there will be one to be called. So as we're creeping forward, I'd suspect we could color in that a little bit more. But what I'm hearing right now is we're kind of in a holding pattern on that. Won't have a concise, but noted it, and we'll try to make sure and have, we'll try to work towards that or see what we can do to help you guys with that. Any other?
Yeah. Just from a super practical standpoint, from a dispatch standpoint, the pre-arrival instructions, where are we drawing the line on that? Is that sit down and apply pressure, or is that full-on CPR instruction? Like, where do you see them drawing the line on that?
I mean, I think it's the training that you're going to send all the dispatchers through for the EMD. I mean, we have, 40 hours, 24 hours that we go through for training that we, for emergency medical dispatch, which is a requirement for all telecommunicators in the county under Next Gen.
We're not currently tracking like the most basic pre-arrival. We would track like pre-arrival instructions given for CPR, pre-arrival instructions given for assisting in birth, things like that. So that's what I mean, like for the FCC survey, where should I draw the line on that?
Well, I mean, that would be separate from, you're just talking about what you're doing on FCC.
Yes, where do you want me to draw the line on that?
My take for you and for everybody else on that for this point in time, that section will take a 0 because you guys are not required and hadn't been in 2025 for the pre-arrival. This is actually just new. If you just 0 that out for now, as long as they get a majority of the data. Going forward with the changes to 5507, you're going to have to figure out internal policy or how you're going to
do it internally, establish our guidelines
and to
internally.
get your analytics
what
and
we're
everything
tracking.
for that pre-arrival and EMD stuff.
Thank you. Any other questions before we adjourn? All right, I'd like to thank Captain Backnicky and Carolyn with GIS for your presentation today. I think helpful. Thanks to the community members for being here, and I will accept a motion to adjourn. Second.
I'll second.
Just do an all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks for coming, and we'll see you at the next meeting.